aftermath of the bloodletting called the Civil War, thousands of ruthless, restless, searching men traveled west. Such a man is William Colton. Like the others, he carried a blanket roll, a proficient gun, and a dedication to a new chapter in American history, the opening of the West.
Colton. Colton, isn't it?
Colton.
You're a long way from Shiloh.
You are too, Mr. Booker. Have some water?
Help yourself.
I heard you'd become a minister.
Almost 2 years ago. I'll get it.
Got a wife, too, I hear, huh?
And a child in a couple of weeks.
Been a long time since Shiloh. Good memory, Mr. Booker.
Not so good. I'd almost forgotten Shiloh.
Well, I never could. Because there was a crazy rebel captain who picked me up out of a mud hole where I was bleeding to death and carried me on his back for a half a mile. That crazy rebel captain saved my life.
I was trying to prove a point, that's all. Simply that Texans have strong backs and Yankees bleed easy.
Well, I'll concede both points. That's why I'm here, Booker. I'd like to repay the favor.
Wasn't necessary.
Maybe not, but I'm partial to my skin. And when a man saves it, I can't just write it off. I heard tell that you'd come west and that you hired yourself out as a gun. Just how good a gun I didn't know until, about a week ago when I was in Dodge and heard some talk. Most of it came from a man named Deneen.
Yeah, I know the name.
Seems you shot down both of his brothers.
His two brothers were something a little less than animals. One of them was responsible for the death of an 11-year-old girl. I was deputized, Mr. Colton. This wasn't any barroom brawl.
Yeah, well, Mr. Deneen doesn't make that distinction. He's found out where you are. He's coming for you. I figure they'll be here sometime before nightfall.
That's what you figure, Mr. Colton?
The law is about 20 miles from here in the county seat. Deneen will have his men with him. You'll need all the help that you can get. That That crazy rebel captain that I was talking about, I figured he'd place great stock in a man's right to try to stay alive. I assume that included his own. He dressed naked for the occasion.
That crazy rebel captain found himself a god, Mr. Colton. And a fate that doesn't have to get packed into a gun chamber. I got all the help I need.
Even if you read it aloud, Mr. Deneen and his party won't listen. You've seen what 8 or 10 or 12 bullets can do to a man's body.
Bullets, cannonballs, and long knives. I'm an expert on how men can leave the earth, Mr. Colton. Why don't you come in now? We'll be having dinner soon. You can stay for the Vesper service we hold in the evening.
Vesper service? This evening?
This evening at 7.
This evening at 7, Reverend. You may not be alive.
Be no blame to you, Mr. Colton, if I'm not.
Nice heft to it.
So's a pitchfork, a bag of grain, an armful of kindling, and this.
Yeah, it's true. But you've forgotten, Reverend. You just don't recollect the nice warm feeling you get when you know that your gun's in your holster. And that you can use it as well as any man.
Forgotten, Mr. Colton? No, I don't forget. I can't forget. The use of a gun takes the years very well. This is Mr. Colton, dear. I've asked him to stay for dinner.
You're more than welcome, Mr. Colton.
Thank you, Mrs. Booker.
He's a good man who has a point of view about guns. We'll give you a good dinner in our point of view, Mr. Colton.
I'd accept your point of view, Reverend, if I were someplace else. Say, a sitting room in Boston, someplace where I wouldn't have to put it to a test.
It's already been put to a test, Mr. Colton. Some 2,000 years ago on a cross. Hitch your horse, Mr. Colton. We'll be having dinner in a little while. Come on. I was telling Mr. Colton it's a small world. Last time I saw him, he was a hard-pressed captain of some equally hard-pressed Union cavalry.
Thank you.
What is your trade now, Mr. Colton?
No trade, Mrs. Booker. Unless you might call searching, looking a profession. When I've got time, I'm not being pushed.
We know all about time, Mr. Colton. Or the lack of it. My husband and I have become experts at looking at clocks. Oh, Book. You've got to...
Prepare the Vesper service. You're quite right, my dear. You and Mr. Colton chat for a bit. I won't be long.
Book, please. This time...
Talk to him, my dear. Make him feel at home, huh?
Can I get you anything else, Mr. Colton?
No, thanks. You know what's happening, don't you, Mrs. Booker?
They found him again.
They found him before?
They always find him. Always. They found him at Fort Meade in the Dakota Territory. That's where we were married. Then we went to Powderville. And they were waiting for us there. We went up north to Wolf Point. They burned our house trying to get him. We hadn't been in Judas Gap 3 days before they rode into town. And we left Virginia City at 2 in the morning, not a half hour before they got there. They always find him. That's what they live for. Deneen and the rest of them.
I'm afraid you've run out of time, Mrs. Booker. They're due here now. Past you. Your husband has got to defend himself with a gun.
Oh, he won't do that. God knows how many times I've asked him to defend himself.
You better ask him again, Mrs. Booker. You better ask him again.
Deneen's here.
Yes. I wish you'd stay for the Vespers service, Mr. Colton.
Well, I wish you wouldn't. At least let me get you a gun.
Didn't my wife tell you? I'm a very stubborn man.
We have to leave. We must leave.
No more running, honey. We talked this out. It only prolongs it. Only holds up what has to be.
But why does it have to be? Book, I'm carrying your son or your daughter. I want you to live to see them.
Come.
Book, please, please.
It's almost time. Congregation will be coming in. Rest.
The congregation and 5 men will see to it that you never preach another sermon.
That may be. But I promised my God I would never again fire in anger. I would never again take a human life. I cannot turn my back on that promise. Not if I want to call myself a man of God. Even when I shake inside with hate, even when I know that a gun, any gun, is an extension of my arm, a part of myself, and that I have a talent for killing that is so special and so perfect. Even then, with the knowledge that there are evil men who have no excuse for staying alive, I cannot break my pact with God. I have to leave justice to God now.
Well, good luck. I wish you well.
You won't stay for the Vespers?
No, I won't. I never was one for a long service, but I don't care for them too short either.
Mr. Colton, thank you. Make good speed and God protect you.
And you, Reverend. May he protect you. He's all you've got.
He's all I need. Get inside, honey.
Hold it, I wouldn't do that. Take your hand off that gun. You're riding with angels. Next time you won't be so lucky.
Easy, friend. I'm not inviting. Just so long as you're not related to the reverend of the church there.
Oh, yeah, why?
Because we're gonna blow him apart. We're gonna spread him up and down the street. Him and anybody who wants to call us.
Hey, you're brave men. How many are there of you, huh? 5? Just 5 men. To gun down one man with a Bible. Well, I'm in the presence of courage. I changed my mind. Thought you might need a quarrel.
Oh, why don't you come in, folks? Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Reverend.
Good evening, Mr. Galvin.
Good evening, Reverend.
Doctor?
You sure everything's all right?
We'll be all right. Good evening, ladies. Good evening. Good evening. Evening, Deacon. Go inside, Henry.
Good evening, Reverend. What's your sermon for tonight?
It's a Vespers service, Mr. Deneen. You're welcome to join us.
You're welcome to join us. We'll give you 5 minutes to say your prayers. 5 minutes. There's gonna be a killing, Reverend. It'd be a little safer if I could do it out here without a lot of people around.
The service will last for 1/2 hour, Mr. Deneen. If you can wait until then, I'll oblige you. If not, the doors won't be locked.
We can still leave.
Don't cry, honey. Don't cry. Would you be so kind as to close the door? Don't lock it. Now, friends, page 21 of the prayer book. A moment of silent meditation. Our scriptural reading today is from the 23rd Psalm.
Hey, Booker! Your 5 minutes are up! Let's get outside!
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Right now, Booker! You come out, or we come in!
He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me.
All right, Booker! You had your chance!
He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Alice! Alice!
Please, don't kill my husband!
Let
hurt. Get out. I'm all right.
You're hurt.
I'm all right.
You've lost your right arm, Reverend.
Watch her. Cover her and make her safe. Give me that gun.
All right, Deneen. Your pleasure. I come to satisfy you.
We'd better get her over to my place. I don't know about the baby, but she'll be all right.
Are you sure, Doctor?
It's in the shoulder. She'll be all right.
Mr. Colton.
Oh, I'm all right. It'll mend. You took some lives tonight, Reverend. But you saved some, too.
I must remember that. I must remember to dwell on that. God, forgive me. Please, God, forgive me.
Sounds like a boy.
He's a boy.
Congratulations, Reverend.
Thank you. And thank you for your help, Mr. Colton. What'll it be now? Still a long ride back and forth to no place in particular?
Back and forth until I find the place.
Ever figure out what it is you've been looking for?
Oh? Pot of gold, maybe. Maybe the secret of longevity. Maybe just a man better than myself. When I find out, I'll let you know. I'll send you a letter. Do me a favor, Reverend. Tell that son of yours when he grows up, if you will, that there was a maverick out in the street the morning he was born who wished him well.
I'll tell him.
Would your name be Townsend? That is your name, isn't it?
Go to the devil with thee.
Did you or did you not try to set fire to my stable 1 hour ago?
Thee know I did.
Then you plead guilty. Is that an act of good or an act of arson?
This is no trial, and thee are no judge. Oh, thee will find me guilty, but God will do the punishing.
It's a ringing and eloquent statement, young Mr. Townsend. Thee has quite a tongue in thy big mouth. Now, in my language, let the following register in that religious head of yours. Your people have planted fence posts, strung wire, and built houses on my land. You've been told to get off that land, and you've been given plenty of time to do so. Now, if you choose not to, quietly, pack up and load your wagon and leave of a cool morning, you will wake up in the dead of night with your shirt tails on fire and no wheels for your wagons. Now, perhaps you're sufficiently well-versed in that Bible of yours to know that when a commandment is broken, you have to be punished. Now, you've tried to destroy another man's property. You have to take the consequences. Since you're so young, I'll be lenient with you. I'll give you much more of a chance than you deserve.
All right, I'll try to speak in your language. You tried to burn us out. Then you sent your bullies to beat up our men. And the land that you claim is yours was lying unused. It was fallow until we took it and farmed it and made things grow on it. In the eyes of God, that land belongs to us. And no whipping, and no burning, and no killing will ever change that. You're an evil man, McComb. You have no God.
Sloan, give the boy your gun.
My faith prohibits the use of violence against men.
Place it on the floor in front of him. Now, I want you to pick that gun up, Mr. Townsend. You seem to have an obsession about vengeance, retribution, and justice. At least you bleat about it with dull regularity. Now, you don't have to bleat about it anymore. I'm going to give you a chance to be the right arm of the Lord. I'll let you pick that gun up, cock it, and aim it before I make one move to my holster.
Thee know I cannot use a gun. It's forbidden me. Thee had best shoot. I cannot break our covenant.
Now, you just run along home, Mr. Townsend, and you tell those stiff-necked defenders of the faith that a miracle happened. Only tell them it didn't come from an angel. It came from McComb. Doesn't make it a habit of killing young boys. Sloan, you pick a friend, take him out in the street, and remove some of his skin. I don't want his squatter friends to misconstrue an act of charity for a lapse in discipline.
Sam.
You don't want to go out in the street?
You're blocking the door, mister. You're keeping my boys from doing their job.
I'm keeping your boys from the pleasure, which doesn't have to be my pleasure.
Well, just what happens to be your pleasure?
Let this lad off without being torn to pieces by your two bully boys here who might cripple him for life.
I understand your point. My point is that the boy has to be punished. Perhaps you'd like to stand in for him.
I already have.
Well, would you like your beating in here or outside?
What's your pleasure?
He looks a little big for just fist. We might have to make this one more complete.
How does that suit you?
That's your pleasure.
Let's get on with the business.
No, please, please. I can suffer the beating. But if this came to a death, it would be on my conscience.
Don't let it bother you, son. I've got a big conscience, big enough for the two of us. Now you better step aside, huh? have it, gentlemen. One or two at a time.
Let's take off the guns.
Change of heart, huh? Fair enough.
Very clever, mister. Very fast. Oh, please. Patience. You and I may have a go at it yet, if necessary.
Well, I'm across the square at the boarding house, if you find it necessary. Come on, son, let's get out of here. Yeah?
Mr. Colton, it's Simon Townsend. May we come in?
Go on in.
Thank you. Mr. Colton, this is my father and Mr. Loden.
Mr. Loden?
We are indebted to thee for what thee did to save my son.
No, it was nothing. Did you sit down?
Thank thee, no. We got thy name from the manager. I hope we didn't intrude.
Not at all. Hope you don't mind if I finish my shaving, huh?
Please continue, Mr. Colton. We have come not just to express appreciation. There is something else.
Yes, go on.
We are of a religious faith from the East. We arrived here after months of traveling. We settled on land outside of the town, land which was then unused. We offered to pay Mr. McComb for this land. He would not even speak of it. But we have no other place to go, Mr. Colton. Our trek out here was full of death and disease. Our people are tired now.
Mr. McComb has burned our barns, killed off our livestock, and now he threatens to burn us out completely. Frankly, we are at our wits' end, Mr. Colton.
Well, you asking my advice?
McComb is a tyrant.
He is that and worse. Though my son's attempt at an act of vengeance was a sinful act, I cannot but understand the desperation that prompted it.
Gentlemen, I'm afraid there are times when you have to fight fire with fire. Beyond that, I don't know what I can tell you.
Then, to the point of our coming here, Mr. Colton. We are forbidden any act of violence by the tenets of our faith. So,
We will pay thee if thee will perform the act of violence for us.
What my father and Mr. Loden cannot bring themselves to say quite clearly, I will say for them. We want thee to kill McComb. Will thee? Will thee kill McComb?
How much are you willing to pay, Mr. Townsend?
we could collect maybe $100.
Surely that much, possibly more.
$100? Well, that's a fair amount of money. Yeah, a fair amount. Considering it's just one man you want killed.
Will thee do it, Mr. Colton?
Will I kill a man for $100? Would you? Or your father? Or you, Mr. Loden?
But, Mr. Colton, we have not the right.
Nor have I, Mr. Loden. Not for $100, $1,000, or any amount. Judge a man, son, but judge him properly. I shot those 2 men this afternoon, but it was because they would have killed me. For the moment, I'll live with it because, well, I think it was right and proper. There was no other alternative. But murder for pay, gentlemen. Well, you better check with someone else in another room. I'm not your man.
Well, what have we here? A delegation?
Thy concern, sir?
A committee of you visiting a gunman in his boarding house rooms? Who else's concern would that be, Mr. Loden? Your son tried to burn down my stable today. He received a few bruises for his efforts. He would have been considerably more bruised if it hadn't been for that gentleman in there. His efforts in your behalf left me with 2 wounded men. I make an assumption now, gentlemen. The smell of blood, it's a little exciting, isn't it? A worm turning instead of a cheek is somewhat satisfying, isn't it?
You will know the truth, Mr. McComb. My son and my friend here, and I, visited Mr. Colton with an idea that was conceived in sin. Properly, we were turned away. This man Colton has told us that he is no killer and no hired gun, as it should be.
Just what would it do to set you off, Brother Townsend? What would it take? What can another man do to make you act like a man? If I were to tell you, for example, that you're nothing but a sanctimonious Bible-spouting hyena, hides behind a woman's skirts in the Old Testament because you're a coward. Could you rise to the occasion? I said, could you rise to the occasion?
Hold!
You disappoint me, Brother Townsend. Far less satisfying running a jackal off my land than a man.
Can a piece of earth be so precious to thee that thee would make enemies of men and women who would do thee no harm?
A piece of earth, Brother Townsend. Just a few mangy acres. You think that's not precious. You think that comes cheap.
Doesn't it?
Not when you've cleared the land with your own 2 hands. Now, you understand me, Mr. Townsend. I built this town. I cleared this land. I came here as a very young man, 25 years ago, when there's nothing here but weeds and cold winters and Indians. But it's a place to live now. And it cost me. My father, scalped and screaming, my wife wasting away with fever, and 2 sons with arrows in their backs. Now, don't you tell me that land is cheap. Not this land. And I don't hate you, Townsend, or yours. Not worth the effort. But what I love, what belongs to me, that is worth the effort.
You're an educated man, Mr. McComb. Can you conceive of another law, another right, the right of people to live in a place and bring up their families without fear, without jeopardy? Isn't that a bigger law?
Not in my land.
All right, let's talk about the land. How about people settling on it, proving it up, so that it's legally theirs?
Not in my territory.
You have quite a kingdom here, Mr. McComb.
You'll be off my land by tomorrow night. If you're not, I'll burn you off or shoot you off, whichever it takes. And anyone else, believe it. Believe it as if it came from the Bible.
And the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek may not have inherited the earth, but there's no law against somebody helping them defend a few acres of it.
You're one man, Colton, with 1 gun. I have 50 men and 50 guns.
Once. Just once. Not once. Not ever. Mr. McComb, there will be no violence and no bloodshed. We will leave thy land tomorrow.
That's belated wisdom, Brother Townsend, but it's wisdom nonetheless.
Not wisdom, Mr. McComb. But once today, I allowed my own hungers and my own desperation to take me away from the Lord. I would have been a party to death, to murder, but no longer. There will be no death, neither from my hands or from anyone else's.
What will we do? Where will we go? How will we live?
We will go somewhere. We will do something. And we shall live in the eyes of God. This we will do, son. This we must do. Thee and Brother Loudon will take the wagon. I will walk. Forgive me, Mr. Colton.
For what? Nothing to forgive? Unless you're ashamed of having a faith. And you have a faith, Mr. Townsend.
Who told you to do this?
I thought that was what you wanted.
I'm sorry, boy. I know what it's like to lose a father.
All thee know is revenge.
'Tis no vengeance of mine. I had no part in it.
Simon! Simon, lad!
I renounce all my oaths. I renounce all the tenets of my faith. I renounce any and all promises made to God. Is this not the custom, Mr. McComb? We draw together, isn't that the way it's done?
I believe the applicable phrase from the scripture is an eye for an eye. Go ahead, boy.
Would thee believe it, Mr. McComb? But though thee are a rich and a powerful man, though thee own and control everything, though thee have the power of a king and own a kingdom, the man that lies dead at thy feet is thy superior, much thy superior. The life that thee took was worth 20 of thine. Would thee believe that, Mr. McComb?
Don't do it, son. Don't do it.
Thank thee, O Lord, for making me hold my hand. Glory be to God. Glory be to God.
You can believe this, Mr. Townsend. I wish it had been me. You can believe that. Mr. Loden, tomorrow, we'll talk about the land. It's not a kingdom, Mr. Colton. It's far from it. It's a grubby little town with nothing to recommend it except it's a place to live. And men have died for that questionable privilege.
I guess I was wrong, Mr. McComb. Sometimes the meek do inherit the earth.